You did not click this by accident. There are no accidents at this level of awareness. Out of millions of possible moments, distractions, and timelines, you arrived here now. That alone tells you something important. When a new timeline opens, it does not announce itself with noise or chaos. It whispers, it pulls, it places signs in front of you that only make sense when you are ready to see them. If you have felt unsettled lately, disconnected from your old life, or strangely calm in the middle of uncertainty, this is not confusion. This is transition. The version of reality you were living in has begun to loosen its grip, and another one is quietly opening its doors. Today, you are not here to be entertained. You are here to remember something you already know. 1. The old timeline could no longer hold you. There comes a moment in life when everything you once called normal starts to feel strangely uncomfortable, as if you are wearing clothes that no longer fit your body. Nothing is technically wrong on the surface, yet something deep inside you feels tight, restless, and misaligned. This is the moment when a timeline begins to collapse, not because it failed, not because you did something wrong, but because you outgrew it. The habits that once felt natural now feel forced. The routines you followed without thinking begin to drain your energy. Even the conversations you once enjoyed start to feel repetitive, shallow, or heavy, as if your soul has already moved ahead while your environment is still stuck in the past. This experience often confuses people because it feels like loss without a clear reason. You may look at your life and think, "I should be grateful, so why does this no longer feel right?" But this is not boredom, and it is not depression. It is something deeper. It is resonance breaking. In simple terms, it means your inner self has changed, but your outer world has not caught up yet. In quantum language, when your internal frequency shifts, the external reality that was built to match your old frequency can no longer stay stable. Reality depends on alignment, and once that alignment breaks, the structure starts to weaken. That is when things begin to crack. People slowly drift away, sometimes without conflict or explanation. Plans that once seemed solid suddenly fall apart. Opportunities disappear, or doors you expected to open remain closed. Certainty fades, and you find yourself standing in a space where the future feels unclear. This can feel unsettling, even painful, but it is important to understand that this is not happening to punish you. It is happening to release you. The old timeline was designed for a version of you that no longer exists. It had limits that once protected you but now restrict you. It had ceilings that once felt high enough but now block your growth. If that timeline had continued, it would have slowly suffocated your potential. You would have felt trapped in a life that looked fine on the outside but felt empty on the inside. So instead of breaking you suddenly, it loosens its grip gently. It removes what no longer fits. It creates space by dissolving what cannot come with you. This is why the shift often feels quiet rather than dramatic. It happens strategically, layer by layer, exactly when it needs to. What feels like things falling apart is actually your life making room for a reality that can finally match who you are becoming. 2. Confusion is the space where the new timeline forms. After the old timeline begins to loosen, the next phase almost always feels confusing. This is the part where many people panic because the familiar structure of life disappears, but nothing clear has replaced it yet. You may feel unsure about your direction, your decisions, or even your identity. Things that once felt obvious now feel uncertain. You may ask yourself, "What am I doing with my life?" Or, "Why don't I feel connected to anything anymore?" This confusion is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is a sign that something new is being built. When one timeline ends and another has not fully formed, the mind enters a gap. In quantum terms, this is the space between realities. The old patterns no longer guide you, but the new patterns have not stabilized yet. That is why you feel suspended, as if you are standing still while everything around you is shifting. Your mind wants clarity, labels, and guarantees, but this phase does not offer them. It asks for patience instead. It asks you to stay present without rushing to define what comes next. This stage feels uncomfortable because your identity is loosening. You are no longer fully attached to who you used to be, but you have not yet stepped into who you are becoming. Old desires fade. Old motivations stop working. Even your emotional reactions begin to change. You may notice that things that once triggered you no longer have the same power, while new sensitivities emerge. This is not weakness. This is recalibration. Your inner system is reorganizing itself to match a higher level of awareness. Many people try to escape this confusion by forcing answers, jumping into distractions, or recreating the past just to feel safe again. But doing that pulls you back into an old timeline that already released you. The confusion exists for a reason. It clears space. It removes automatic thinking. It breaks unconscious habits. It gives you the rare opportunity to consciously choose who you want to be without being controlled by old conditioning. If you allow yourself to stay grounded in this phase, something powerful happens. The noise slowly fades. Your intuition becomes clearer. You begin to sense what aligns with you and what does not, even without logical explanations. The new timeline does not appear all at once. It forms gradually, responding to your awareness, your honesty, and your willingness to let go of certainty. What feels like being lost is actually the moment where your future becomes flexible. This confusion is not a problem to solve. It is the doorway through which your new reality is taking shape. 3. Signs begin to appear when you stop forcing answers. As the confusion settles and you stop trying to rush your way out of it, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. Life starts speaking to you again, but in a quieter, more precise way. You may notice repeating numbers, familiar phrases showing up in different places, or the same idea being mentioned by different people at different times. You might think of something deeply, only to hear it echoed hours later through a video, a conversation, or a random message. These are not coincidences. These are signals that the new timeline is beginning to align around you. Signs do not appear when you are tense, desperate, or constantly searching for certainty. They appear when resistance drops, when you stop demanding immediate clarity and instead allow yourself to observe. The quantum field responds. It is as if reality is waiting for you to relax enough to notice what has been there all along. Forcing answers tightens your focus and blocks perception. Letting go widens it. And in that widened awareness, patterns become visible. These signs are not meant to confuse you or test you. They are confirmations. They are gentle reassurances that you are moving in the right direction, even if you cannot yet see the full picture. The universe does not shout when a new timeline opens. It whispers through repetition, timing, and alignment. The more you trust the process, the clearer these signals become. You begin to feel guided rather than lost. This is also the phase where intuition strengthens. You may feel drawn towards certain ideas, places, or actions without a logical reason. At the same time, you may feel a natural pull away from people, habits, or environments that once felt important. This is not avoidance. It is discernment. Your inner system is now tuned to a different frequency, and it can sense what supports the new timeline and what belongs to the old one. The key during this phase is not to overanalyze the signs, but to remain present with them. You do not need to decode everything or force meaning into every detail. Simply notice, simply acknowledge. The more calmly you observe, the more clearly the path reveals itself. When you stop pushing reality to explain itself, reality begins cooperating with you, and in that cooperation, the new timeline gains momentum, unfolding naturally, step by step, exactly when you are ready to move forward. Fear. You are no longer buying. tested you are being positioned. At this stage of the shift, something very important changes, even if you do not notice it immediately. The struggles in your life no longer feel chaotic or meaningless in the same way they once did. In the old timeline, every challenge felt like a test of survival. Pain felt personal, delays felt like rejection, loss felt like failure. It always seemed as if life was asking, how much more can you handle? But now, the energy is different. The difficulties you face carry purpose instead of punishment. They feel more focused, more intentional. This is because you are no longer being tested, you are being positioned. When the universe tests you, it pushes your limits to reveal who you are. When it positions you, it arranges your environment, your timing, and your experiences so that you are exactly where you need to be for what comes next. This is a quieter process, but a more powerful one. You may notice that certain doors close, even though you did everything right. You may find yourself removed from situations you thought were essential to your future. At the same time, you may be placed in uncomfortable pauses where nothing seems to move. These pauses are not delays, they are adjustments. They are the moments where the pieces are being rearranged behind the scenes. Positioning often feels unfair because it removes comfort without explaining why. But comfort is not the goal of this phase. Precision is. The universe does not waste energy refining what it does not intend to use. Every experience you survived before this moment sharpened your awareness, strengthened your emotional control, and taught you restraint. Now those qualities are being put to use. The pressure you feel is not meant to break you. It is meant to align you. It is trimming away what would interfere with the version of life you are about to step into. You may also notice that you are being asked to slow down, to observe more, and to react less. Situations arise that would have once triggered fear, anger, or panic, but now they seem to invite calm and clarity instead. This is because the new timeline does not require constant struggle. It requires stability. It requires a nervous system that can remain grounded while things shift. You are being trained, not through intensity, but through restraint. Being positioned also means learning to trust redirection. When something falls apart now, it does so cleanly. When something leaves your life, it creates space instead of chaos. This is a sign that you are aligned with a higher order of movement. The confusion of the earlier phase gives way to a quiet sense of readiness. You may not know what is coming next, but you feel that you are being prepared for something that fits you better than anything before. This is not the end of the journey. It is the moment where everything begins to make sense, not all at once, but enough for you to keep moving forward with confidence and calm. 5. Detachment is what activates the new timeline. As the positioning continues, you are slowly guided toward one of the most misunderstood but powerful states of growth: detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring about your life, your dreams, or your future. It means you stop gripping reality with fear and expectation. In the old timeline, attachment was necessary for survival. You held tightly to people, plans, outcomes, and identities because losing them felt like losing yourself. But the new timeline operates on a different principle. It responds to clarity, not control. At this stage, you may notice a natural loosening within you. You care, but not in the same desperate way. You still desire progress, but you no longer chase it with anxiety. You still value people, but you are no longer afraid of being alone. This shift is subtle, yet it changes everything. When you release emotional pressure, your energy becomes fluid. And in quantum terms, fluid energy moves easily through reality. Fixed energy stays stuck. Detachment sends a powerful signal to the quantum field. It says, I trust myself enough to receive what aligns with me, and I am no longer afraid of what falls away. This is why things often begin to align right after you genuinely let go. Opportunities appear when you stop forcing them. Conversations happen naturally when you stop planning them. Solutions emerge when you stop obsessing over problems. The universe responds not to tension, but to coherence. This is also where emotional maturity deepens. You learn to observe situations without immediately reacting. You feel emotions without letting them control your actions. You allow uncertainty without needing instant answers. This inner stability is what allows the new timeline to stabilize around you. A reality built on clarity cannot attach itself to a mind constantly in panic. Calm becomes the invitation. Detachment also frees you from timelines that were never meant to continue. When you stop insisting that something must work, you allow truth to surface. What stays does so effortlessly. What leaves does so without drama. This is not loss. This is alignment. The more detached you become, the more accurate your life becomes. In this phase, you may realize that peace is no longer a reward you chase. It becomes your baseline. And from that baseline, the right choices feel obvious. The new timeline does not open because you demand it. It opens because you are finally ready to move through it without dragging fear, control, or old expectations behind you. 6. Your inner world is now writing the new reality. As you move deeper into this new phase, you may begin to notice that reality responds to you faster than it ever did before. This is not because the world has suddenly changed, but because you have. In the old timeline, your inner world was often reactive. Thoughts ran automatically. Emotions followed old patterns. You repeated internal stories without realizing how much power they held. But now, something different is happening. Your awareness has increased, and with that awareness comes responsibility. The new timeline is being written from the inside out. Every reality is sustained by internal dialogue. The thoughts you repeat shape how you interpret events, how you feel about them, and how you respond. In quantum terms, consistent thought patterns create coherence, and coherence stabilizes timelines. As the old timeline dissolves, its thought loops lose their grip. You may notice that the fears you once carried no longer feel as convincing. The doubts that once controlled your decisions now sound quieter, weaker, almost foreign. This is not because they disappeared overnight, but because you are no longer feeding them unconsciously. At this stage, your inner language becomes critical, not in the sense of forced positivity, but in the sense of clarity. The new timeline does not respond to denial or fantasy. It responds to alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions point in the same direction, reality organizes itself to support that direction. This is why even small shifts in self-talk can produce noticeable changes. When you stop saying, "I don't know what I'm doing," and start thinking, "I am learning and adjusting," your nervous system relaxes. When you replace "nothing ever works out for me" with "I am in a transition phase," your perception opens. These are not affirmations, they are recalibrations. You may also notice that emotional reactions now carry consequences faster. When you stay grounded, situations resolve smoothly. When you spiral into fear, resistance appears almost immediately. This is not punishment. It is feedback. The new timeline has less tolerance for unconscious behavior because it is built on awareness. It mirrors you more directly. This is why self-regulation becomes essential. Calm thinking produces stable outcomes. Reactive thinking creates noise. This phase also invites you to become more intentional. Instead of waiting for life to happen to you, you begin asking better questions. What aligns with me now? What feels clean, honest, and sustainable? What no longer matches who I am? These questions guide your choices subtly but powerfully. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop forcing alignment with people or paths that require you to shrink. The inner clarity you cultivate becomes the blueprint for the external reality forming around you. Most importantly, You begin to trust yourself, not blindly, but quietly. You trust your ability to respond instead of react. You trust your timing. You trust that clarity will arrive when it is needed. This trust stabilizes the new timeline more than any effort ever could. The future you are stepping into is not being built by chance. It is being shaped moment by moment by the inner state you choose to live from. 7. The new timeline requires a new version of you. As the final layers of the shift settle in, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. You cannot step fully into a new timeline while carrying the identity that belonged to the old one. Every reality is built to support a specific version of you. The habits, reactions, beliefs, and self-image that once helped you survive are not the same qualities that will help you thrive now. This is why so much has been falling away without force. You are not losing parts of yourself. You are shedding roles you no longer need to play. In this phase, you may notice that you no longer feel the urge to explain yourself the way you once did. You speak less, but with more intention. You react less, but with more awareness. Silence begins to feel powerful rather than empty. This is not withdrawal, it is integration. Your energy is consolidating. You are learning that not everything requires your response, your presence, or your approval. The new timeline does not reward constant engagement. It rewards discernment. You may also feel a growing distance from old identities you once clung to. The need to be understood, validated, or chosen begins to fade, not because you no longer care about connection, but because you no longer build your sense of self on it. This shift can feel lonely at times, but it is not isolation. It is alignment. You are learning to stand comfortably in your own awareness without needing external confirmation. That inner stability is essential for what comes next. The new timeline asks for emotional maturity. It asks you to respond instead of react, to observe instead of assume, and to choose calm even when chaos presents itself. Situations that once pulled you into drama now feel unnecessary. You can see patterns more clearly, and because you see them, you no longer need to repeat them. This is growth in its most grounded form, quiet, steady, and deeply transformative. You may also notice that your standards rise naturally. You become more selective with your time, your energy, and your commitments. You no longer say yes to what drains you just to avoid discomfort. You no longer stay in environments that require you to abandon yourself. This is not selfishness, it is self-respect. The new timeline demands clarity, and clarity requires boundaries. Most importantly, you begin to trust the pace of your life. You stop comparing your journey to others. You understand that alignment cannot be rushed. You move with intention instead of urgency. This calm certainty is what allows the new timeline to fully lock in. The version of you emerging now is not louder, faster, or more aggressive. It is more present, more grounded, and more precise. And that is exactly the version required to live the reality that is opening for you. 8. The moment you stop looking for proof, the timeline locks in. At this stage, the shift becomes deeply internal, even if nothing dramatic has changed on the outside yet. This is the moment when the new timeline begins to stabilize, not because you finally see results, but because you stop needing proof that things are working. In the old timeline, reassurance was necessary. You needed signs, confirmations, and external validation to feel safe moving forward. But the new timeline does not activate through evidence. It activates through certainty. This is where trust becomes embodied rather than intellectual. You are no longer trying to convince yourself that things will be okay. You simply feel it. There is a quiet steadiness in your nervous system, a sense that even if you cannot predict what happens next, you can handle it. This internal safety is what allows reality to settle around you. When your body is no longer in survival mode, The quantum field no longer reflects chaos back to you. You may notice that you stop checking outcomes constantly. You stop replaying conversations. You stop obsessing over timelines, deadlines, and when. Not because you gave up, but because your attention has shifted inward. You are more present with what is happening now. This presence sends a powerful signal. It tells reality that you are no longer chasing the future or escaping the past. You are available for alignment. This phase often feels strangely quiet. There may be fewer signs, fewer emotional highs and lows, fewer dramatic shifts. And that can feel confusing if you are used to intensity being a sign of progress. But stability is not stagnation. This calm is the foundation. The timeline is settling. The pieces are clicking into place beneath the surface. Growth has moved from chaos into coherence. You may also realize that you no longer feel the need to talk about your plans or explain your journey to others. Your path feels personal now, protected. You understand that not everyone needs to see what you see or understand what you are building. The new timeline does not require announcement. It requires consistency. Quiet commitment becomes more powerful than loud intention. This is also where patience deepens. You are no longer rushing life to prove something about you. You are allowing life to unfold in a way that matches your inner stability. When obstacles appear, they do not shake you the way they once did. You see them as information rather than threats. You respond with adjustment instead of panic. When you reach this point, the new timeline is no longer forming. It is active. You are living inside it, even if the outer results are still catching up. The shift has already happened where it matters most. The future you are stepping into is now responding to who you are, not who you were afraid of being. And from this place, everything that aligns with you arrives with less effort, less resistance, and far more precision. If you have followed this message from the beginning to this point and felt a quiet sense of recognition, that is not accidental. Recognition is how alignment announces itself. You were not meant to understand everything all at once, and you were never meant to have the full map before you began moving. The shift you are experiencing is not loud, dramatic, or chaotic anymore. It is calm, precise, and deeply intentional. That alone tells you how far you have come. The old timeline released you because it could no longer support who you are becoming. The confusion you walked through was not a mistake, but a necessary space where the future could loosen from the past. The signs appeared not to impress you, but to reassure you. The detachment you learned was not loss, but freedom. And the inner clarity you are developing now is not temporary. It is the foundation of the life forming around you. You are no longer waiting for life to change. You are changing how you meet life. That is the difference. The new timeline does not arrive as a sudden event. It arrives as a quiet knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, even without proof. Trust that. Protect that. Move forward from that place. You do not need to rush. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to look back for confirmation. The door is already open, and you have already stepped through it. What unfolds next will not be built on fear or force, but on alignment, awareness, and self-trust. And from here on, the reality you experience will increasingly reflect the calm, clarity, and strength you have learned to carry within you.